But Agrippina, although worn out with grief and with a sick body, was, however, impatient of everything which could delay revenge. She boarded a ship with the ashes of Germanicus and with her children. And everyone felt sorry. This is an ablative absolute, so literally it's with everybody feeling sorry, because a woman of highest nobility, or of utmost nobility, and with a very handsome marriage, who deserved respect of all, at that time or then was carrying the funereal remains in her lap, uncertain of revenge. Meanwhile, news reaches Piso at the island of Kos that Germanicus has died. Rejoicing at this, literally it's at which rejoicing, but we'll say rejoicing at this, he slaughters victims, he goes up to temples. Not only does Piso himself behave himself, maybe you don't need that second himself, but sei gerit literally means he behaves himself, with excessive joy, but also Plancina becomes more arrogant. Now Latin says who, but we'll say she, then for the first time changed her mourning clothing for the death of her sister into joyful clothing or festal clothing. Until the last line, mutavit, all the verbs in this section are in the present tense, and that makes this section particularly vivid. But at Rome, after the report of Germanicus's illness grew, or spread, and, as happens at a distance, note there's no Latin word for happens there, but we can add it in. Now, for the next bit, literally it means all things were reported increased for the worse. In better English, we will say all reports, or everything reported, was exaggerated for the worse. There began to break out a rumpebant, grief, anger, complaints. Now I've translated a rumpebant as they began to break out. There's no separate word for began, but in Latin the imperfect tense can have that meaning of to begin to do something. So I think that's quite a nice translation here. A rumpebant, they began to break out. Now what follows is a colon, and after the colon we are given an idea of what complaints people were making at Rome, what they were saying. In the English translation, I've used the words they said that in brackets. Now there's nothing for they said that in the Latin. There's no dixerent or anything like that. But we know that that's what it means because there's a colon, and after the colon, everything is in the accusative and infinitive construction. That's the indirect statement. So we can supply the words they said that to put that sense into English. So here's what they were saying at Rome. Evidently, that is why Germanicus had been exiled into the furthest lands. That was why the province had been entrusted to Piso. The death of Germanicus, when it was announced, so greatly or so much inflamed these conversations of the people, or of the common people, that before the edict of the magistrates, before the decree of the Senate, a break was taken from legal business. We'll have a look at that phrase in a minute. The forums were deserted. The houses were shut. These words, sumpto justitio, are an ablative absolute. Literally translated, it means a break having been taken from legal business. But I've translated it, a break was taken, to make the English flow a bit better. Next sentence is really short, and it's quite punchy and powerful for that reason. Do you notice that there is no verb in the next sentence? Literally, it's everywhere, silence, and groaning. Tacitus really makes that sentence stand out by making it so short and verbless. We've added the verb in English to make it make better sense. Everywhere was silence. There was silence and groaning. And although they did not refrain from the outward signs of mourning, they grieved more deeply in their minds, or you could say in their hearts. On the day of the Senate, Tiberius made, literally it's he held, but made is a bit better there, a restrained speech. Piso, he said, was a representative and friend of my father. I sent, notice the use of the pronoun ego here. It's not really necessary because misi by itself means I sent. So using the word ego puts special emphasis on his own role in this action. I sent him to Germanicus as a helper with the authority of the Senate. Now, I sent him to administer. The ad means to, and then we're going to take administrandos, which means administer, look after, or deal with. And then we're going to do race, matters. So we've got to deal with matters, to deal with affairs. And finally, apud orientem means in the east. You must judge. De judicandum est. Literally it means it must be judged. There's no word for you here, but it's fairly obvious you've got to do it. Who else is going to do the judging? So you must judge with unbiased, pure minds whether Piso annoyed the young man, that's Germanicus, with arrogance and with rivalry, and rejoiced in his death, or whether he killed him, scellera, which means with wickedness. You could just translate that as wickedly, if you like. At the same time, consider whether he provoked the legions to rebellion. Then a period of 2 days was decreed for bringing or presenting the charges, and, that's the quae here, and, so that after an interval of 6 days, the accused could be defended for 3 days. So let's just have a think about the time there. We've got 2 days for the prosecution to present their piece, then a break of 6 days, and then 3 days for the defence. Back to the text. 3 friends of Germanicus attacked Piso with similar enthusiasm. Now this word obiecerent, which I've translated as attacked, it should be seen as attacked in a legal sense. They gave speeches against Piso. They didn't attack him physically, it wasn't a fight. And the word consimile is also interesting. It's quite a strong word. If he'd wanted to just say with similar enthusiasm, he could just have said simile without the con. So adding the con actually means really with very similar enthusiasm. You could put that in your translation if you like, but you don't have to. Now what happens next, if you look at the translation, is that I've used the words saying that. Later on this slide, you'll notice that I've done it again in brackets. They said that here. And again, they said that here. All those times which I've just underlined, all those times where I put the word saying that or they said that, you will not find the word saying that or they said that in the Latin. Tacitus doesn't use those words. He doesn't have to. He's shown that he means those words by the construction he's used. Because he's written in indirect statement, that's the accusative and infinitive construction. So we can tell that everything after this point is actually indirect statement. These are the things which Germanicus' friends said. Okay, so let's have a look at what they said. They said that he had, in hatred of Germanicus and in his enthusiasm for rebellion, rerum novarum here, literally it means of new things, but we'll translate it as rebellion, that he had corrupted the soldiers through riotous behaviour and injuries or injustices of their allies. I said injustices towards their allies. Finally, he himself, ipsum, had killed Germanicus with curses and with poison. Then, this is actually the last thing which they said that both Piso and Plancina, his wife, if you remember, after they had carried out rituals and wicked sacrifices, that they had attacked the state, rem publicam, both those words together mean the state, with weapons. The defence faltered in the other charges, for neither the bribery of the soldiers nor the injustice towards the province, nor indeed the insults against the emperor could be denied. Piso could only refute the charge or accusation of poison. But at the same time, the voices of the common people were being heard in front of the Senate House. Now, what follows the colon is what the people were saying. It's another one of those examples of Tacitus using indirect statement without bothering to say, they said that. So after the colon, it's, they would not restrain their hands, even if, I'm translating C here as even if, Piso had escaped the judgments of the senators. Now here there is actually an error in the translation. I've written hands again instead of judgments, so I just need to correct that, and we have a correct translation now. In this last section, we learn that Piso's wife, Plancina, was loyal to him at first, but then turned away from him and deserted him. For Piso, the end was not a very happy one. There was the same resentment of Plancina. Now that's referring to the resentment of the crowd that we saw before. The common people didn't like Piso, and they also turned against Plankina. And she herself, while Piso had, now Latin says, while for Piso there was, word translated of Piso had, hope of acquittal, she promised that she would be futuram esse, his friend, whatever his fortune, and if it were necessary, that she'd be, we go back to futuram esse again, that she would be his companion in death. Well, that's promising a lot of loyalty, but look what happens next. But gradually she began to distance herself from her husband. After Piso realised that that was fatal for him, basically he'd come to realise that he couldn't possibly win his case, he hesitated whether to defend himself. That verb causam dicere literally means to speak his case, or translated as defend himself further. And so, as if he were planning his defence for the following day, he writes a few things. It's gone into the present tense here because it's getting vivid. It's getting quite exciting. He's very near the end. So he writes a few things. Maybe he writes a letter. Perhaps he's writing notes for the law court. And he signs it, seals it, and he hands it over to the freedman. Then he attends to the usual needs of the body. Literally, that's the usual things, the customary things in caring for the body. Then, after much of the night, when his wife had left the bedroom, he ordered the door to be shut, and at dawn, literally at first light, he was found, stabbed through the throat, with a sword lying on the ground.